We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Heisman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. You can find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. And Brett, where can you find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
All right, we got a lot of interaction. This is our mailbag episode, and we got a lot of questions out there. And for the next episode, we may try to do this once a week during the off season. But we got some good questions today, Brett. I'm really excited about this podcast. But if you want to continue listening to Locked On Astros podcast, you can get Locked On Astros on the podcast app Himalaya, as well as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And when you get in your car, tell your smart device play podcast Locked On Astros. All right, so Brett, I'm gonna go ahead and let you do the first question, I believe, right? Or is there anything you want to talk about before we go and do the first question?
No, I just want to thank those of y'all that submitted your questions. We'll be mentioning your Twitter handle on this episode, and so if you like that, if you want to get some recognition when you give us questions, we'll give you credit for answering the question. And I don't know, maybe in 2021 we can figure out a way to give away some things for people that enter questions to Locked On Astros to give the fans a little something extra out there.
All right. So our first question comes from Darberry at Darberry, and she says, "Do we know if fans will be allowed to attend games?" As far as I know, yes. It depends on my family has a cruise that's planned in July, but it's still up in the air because we don't know what's going to be happening at that time. Major League Baseball just lost billions of dollars by not having fans at the games this year. They want the fans back in the seats, and that players would rather play in front of fans. You saw how exciting it was during the World Series when there was limited exposure there, but at least people were there.
Yeah, Rob Manfred's even said himself that they do plan on having fans in the stands. We know that with the World Series, I think we've touched on this before, with the World Series having a limited capacity, there was no known cases or breakouts of COVID as a result. And so that's definitely good. It also is going to depend, I think, on geographic location. If you're in California, it's probably going to be later rather than sooner. But if you're in places like Texas or Florida, where they have things that are more opened up, it's really going to depend. I think Major League Baseball, because Major League Baseball can't trump or go over city, county, state ordinances. They have to go along with the protocol. That's why, like in the NFL, for example, you see the Chiefs will have fans, and then you'll watch a Bears game and there's nobody. Or you'll watch a Texans game and there's fans, and you'll watch Cowboys games. Some stadiums have them, some stadiums don't. Major League Baseball, to answer the question, does intend on having fans in the stands. Now, how many that is and how they're going to do that, that is yet to see. That is yet to be known.
All right.
So sorry. So our next question actually comes from at Highest Tower 411, a loyal listener of the show. What is the lineup projection if Springer and Brantley do not sign in Houston?
Ouch, dang.
If they do not sign in Houston.
You're making it hard for us here.
Yeah. So what we have to do is we have to come up with a lineup without Springer, without Brantley, double. So tell me what you think about this, Eric. And Eric and I we kind of put our heads together on this a little bit.
We flip-flop on the first two players.
We did. I had Altuve leading off. He had Bregman. So this is what we ended up with. Bregman leading off, Altuve in the 2-hole, Yordan Alvarez third, Carlos Correa fourth. I know a lot of people probably want to flip those because you want to put your power hitter fourth. Okay, I would get that. Tucker fifth, Gurriel sixth, Jackie Bradley Jr., who, cross our hearts, hope to die, stick a needle in my eye, hope he comes. And then Diaz, I know, Ledness Diaz is not an exciting player. I know Eric immediately booed me when I said that. We put / free agent. And then we have Maldonado in the 9-hole, obviously. And so that's
Maldonado
the lineup.
And Castro, yeah.
Yeah. That's the lineup we project going into 2021 without Brantley, without Springer. Any
I
other names that might fill the left field section if Brantley isn't signed?
Well, I think we have another question that's kind of touching on that, but
Okay.
it all goes back to the budget. I mean, if you throw 20 million at Michael Brantley, that's only going to give you like 17 million to get another outfielder, a catcher, maybe another bullpen guy or another piece. It's just going to be hard to get that all done. So the Astros are going to have to either decide to go get Michael Brantley or live with a straw Diaz, Ronnie Dawson, Chas McCormick, another no-name free agent, and some guy I kind of brought up before the show, and you're like, not really, Ryan Braun. I'm sure you could get Ryan Braun for pretty cheap. I'm not saying he'll be good, but I don't think he's the best defender in the outfield. And there's several other names. So we're going to kind of address that with the next question. And so I hope that answered your question. I think his name's Travis, but thank you
No,
for that.
his name is his name is Corey.
Corey.
You
Okay.
talking about highest tower 411 is Corey Hightower, actually.
Okay. I got to mix Tyler, Trevor, whoever.
No.
But I'm so sorry about that, Corey. But this is from Craig Harmon. He said, who's playing outfield in 2021 outside of Tucker? I'll throw it to you.
So like I said, we kind of address this in the lineup question, but I see someone like Jackie Bradley Jr. I see someone like a Kevin Pillar. If left field is vacant as well, I wouldn't be objected to bringing in a guy like Robbie Grossman. Jock Peterson is still out there as a free agent. I know a lot of people are like, I mean, you look at his career numbers and they're not great. His batting average is not great. He knows how to make the money man sound like Johnny Manziel. So I don't know, maybe Aggies would like him on the team. But right now, there's a very strong possibility that if they do sign Brantley, then center field will be more likely Miles Straw.
What about Kevin Kiermaier? He's with the Rays, and he's set to listen. He's set to make 12.1 million this year. Take that back. 11.1 this year, and then in 2022, 12.1 million, and then he has a $13 million team option in 2023. Yes, he's not the best offensive guy anymore. He's kind of a career, what is he? Career like 240. Here it is. Career, where is it? I can't see it. Oh, here it is. 248. I was right. So he's a career 248 batting average, OPS at 720. But you get him for center field. He could be that elite defender out there in center field, and then you can maybe sign a free agent. Yes,
But who are you going to give them? The Rays want blood. They don't just want some token piece.
John Singleton.
They don't want no Johnson. No, we're still paying his butt. They
Are
don't
sure?
want Chas. They don't want Chas McCormick. They don't even want Abraham Toro. They don't want. If they're going to trade Kevin Kiermaier has enough value to get someone back in return.
It's going to be somebody like Jeremy Pena. It's going to be somebody like Jeremy Pena, and that's the thing.
No, so I would say that's a 0% chance of that happening. Kevin Kiermaier, I like him. I posed the question on Twitter.
Can I throw something to you real quick?
Go ahead. I'll catch it.
Christian Javier.
Eric.
That's the type of player the Rays would go after. You know that. So let's just kind of stop that conversation.
Okay. This is why we need to get out of 2020. We need to get to our New Year's show like ASAP, because you're talking about, dude, oh my God, you just set Twitter on fire.
I'm kidding.
Kidding. I know. I was like, good Lord.
All right.
Holy crap. What do we come to today? Anyways.
So I wouldn't bet on the Astros trading Christian Javier, but what would you bet on, Brett?
Well, this is what I would do. Since we have bowl games around the corners, we have NFL playoffs coming up, we have so many things. The NBA season is in swing. There's only one place that has you covered, one place that we trust. That's betonline.ag. Sign up today for a free account at betonline.ag and use the promo code Locked On for your 50% welcome bonus. That's right. NFL games, college games, bowl games, prop bets, anything, you name it. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get into the action. Don't forget to use the promo code Locked On to receive 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Bet online, your online sportsbook experts.
All right. So let's go in. And I want to conclude that last question with, we honestly don't know. I don't think even James Click really knows who's giving outfield right now. It's kind of up in the air. It's not very often where you have a team where all three outfielders leave via free agency.
We should, what we could do? We could really trigger people and just say sources tell us. And the source would just be like you and me discussing before the show, but it's a source, right? I mean, let's do it.
Let's not become
say
fans with sources. I've actually had sources before and couldn't say anything. So, but let's go and move on
Hey,
back to the questioning.
I have two.
All right. So go ahead and ask the next question, please, Brett.
Okay, so this question actually comes from a really cool guy. This is from Ronald Davenport. Coach Davenport is a retired football coach at Mile Water Crosby High School. One of the best coaches. Just love football, love baseball. Saw some talented athletes come through that school. And so right here, if the Astros address the bullpen, who will they likely get? Number one. And the second part of that is if they do not, will Josh James figure into the picture if he can find his control? And will Paredes be considered to be used as a closer? So let's address the first part of that question. Who do you think the Astros are going to be looking at to help shore up that bullpen?
Well, kind of like with the outfielder situation, there's a lot of options out there, and there hasn't been really a lot of movement so far. I know you've got the big names like who are we talking about?
We can
Liam
get
Hendricks,
You can get Liam Hendricks, Hand. We can get Rosenthal.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's several names out there, and just keep in mind that the Astros don't typically go out there and get the top free agent. So that's something to keep in mind there. So Hand, would you say the Hand or Hendricks would be the top free agent? I think that
and
this
then you have Rosenthal out there. Trevor May's already gone. I wanted him, but he's gone. I believe the Twins picked him up. But there are a lot of, I think, options where, Colome or Colome, from the White Sox is out there. He garners a little bit larger salary, but so does Liam Hendricks. So
Liam Hendricks is the best relief option.
And I really see, I would not be surprised if someone like the Blue Jays or even the Mets or someone like that went out and got Liam Hendricks. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, yeah, I think the Astros, if they want to go with a Jackie Bradley Jr., then they can go out and get a Liam Hendricks. But we're talking, closers don't get a lot of money typically anyway. They get more than your typical reliever, but a closer doesn't get as much as an outfielder will. So we're not talking about 20 million or something like that. At most, it'll be, go ahead.
But he's actually, his market value is like 15.6.
Yeah, but it's not 20 million. So yeah, I know what you mean.
So Eric, what do you think about Josh James? Coach Davenport wants to know if he gets his control back, does he factor in as let's say if he does he then factor in as a long reliever, as a middle guy, eat up middle innings guy?
I think that he did a lot better once he went to the bullpen last year. I think that he is better suited for the bullpen. And I believe I've said this for a couple years now. I think that he is like maybe even Lance McCullers is in the long run better set for the bullpen, but he's a good enough starter where he can do it. Just with somebody like Josh James, he just doesn't have the control that you would like a closer to have. So let's say that, knock on wood, that something happened, Ryan Presley, they needed a closer. Do I think Josh James would be that guy? No. I think that it's going to be Paredes as a closer. If something happens to Presley, and you're probably not going to like this, and a lot of people are probably going to laugh at me, but I think that Forrest Whitley would become a closer. I think that he's got the stuff for just 1 inning or two. He has the stuff to come in and kind of break into the big leagues as a closer, because at this point he has no shot at making a rotation unless he just comes in and dazzles during spring training. But this
Yeah,
guy has a live arm, and a live arm you can put in bullpen. He's just got to work on his control too. So honestly, to answer the question, we got to wait till spring training. We got to see what Josh James has improved on, and we have to see what Forrest Whitley has comes to camp.
well, my sources in my head tell me Forrest Whitley. I agree with you when we were talking off camera that he is going to do everything he can to try to make it on the rotation. And I think the Astros, honestly, if you were to ask them deep down, they probably would want Forrest Whitley to make this rotation. I know Jose
Where did Roy
Urquidy
Oswalt
is,
start in the
yeah,
bullpen? Where
exactly.
did Shane Reynolds start
True.
in the bullpen?
Well,
A
that's
lot
true.
of
That's true.
Wade Miller was another one. There's a lot of Astros, and Tim
Look at
Redding, I believe.
look at you pulling up like the look at you pulling up the red brick jersey
So
days of the Houston
I'm
Astros.
not a 2017er like a lot of people call the
You're
people that
you're
start.
you're a 2004er. No, I'm joking. I'm giving you a hard time. No, he's a 1990s kid. When it comes to Astros, am I right about that?
I think I was a Bagwell kid. I think I started watching Astros because of Bagwell, honestly. I mean,
Awesome.
I was always an Astros fan, but I really, really started because I was intrigued by his batting style. And I just
Yeah,
always tried it. I'm like,
you're
how
like
the heck does he do it? And I even tried to mimic it when I played baseball, and the coach is like, no, Eric, no.
mm. Dude, so get this. I've got to share this real quick before we get to our last question. My niece is down. Her and my niece and my nephew, they both live in Kansas City. Well, she had never been told what the Astrodome was. So we drove by it and I was like, do you know what that is? She goes, I don't know. It looks like a big stadium. I said, yeah, that's not just a big stadium. That's the eighth wonder of the world. So I got to give my niece this history lesson about the Astrodome and it being the first dome stadium and about AstroTurf. It was a really cool 15, 20-minute conversation. She was like listening. This like 12-year-old girl was like listening to this history of the Astros. She was like, that's really cool, Uncle Brett. So I thought that was neat. So the last question comes from Paul Valadez. At Paul Valadez says, how long do you think Brent Strom is going to be coaching? And do you think Joe Espada will reunite with AJ Hinch?
Uh, who knows? I'm sure eventually Joe Espada will be let go from the Houston Astros, and he could eventually become the manager. I mean, the assistant manager over there. But we don't know. That's kind of a like. It's like the Red Sox. It's like, well, no, sorry, the Tigers. Do we really care about the Tigers? But I get where he's going. But I'm gonna say no for this reason. I think that Joe Espada is eventually going to become the next Astros manager.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think after this next year with Dusty Baker, no matter how successful or unsuccessful the run is that he has, Joe Espada to me sets up perfectly. You're far enough removed from anything in 2017. He knows the club, he knows the system, he's trusted, he's a good baseball guy. Why would you let that guy go to another team and be an asset to someone else?
And can I take a second to be real for a second to try to be George Washington from Hamilton? But you know that Dusty Baker, he improved a lot this year as a manager. A lot of people could say no, he didn't. You
No, he
have to
didn't.
know a lot of it has to do with his conversation with Joe Espada, and he's probably. I think that this is kind of a internship in a way, and where they're trying to build him up, and that way he could become a manager. If there's a better option out there, then yeah, they may go after that. Dusty Baker says he's not a lame duck. He doesn't know if he's going to be beyond next year, but he's just going to play until the Astros don't want him anymore. If the Astros don't want him, then I think they'll go with Spada, or if there's another better option out there, like AJ Hinch comes back up. I doubt that will happen, but
What about Brent Strom? Let's wrap this up.
yeah,
Brent Strom, I do not know how old he is.
he's in
Um,
his 80s, isn't he?
but
Look that up real
I
quick.
think here's what I think. I think that Brent Strom will coach with the Astros as long as this club is competitive and fighting for their playoff spot and a viable World Series contender. I think when that ends, Brent Strom will probably end his coaching career with the Astros.
He is
Why?
72 right now.
I mean, you know, I mean, who knows? I mean, he could have another 8 years in the majors.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if let's say the Astros for the next 3 or 4 years are a viable top four team, right? Where they're in the conversation, they may not be the favorites, but they're in the conversation. I think the second that this club turns into a rebuild or something like that, I would think that Brent Strom maybe then would maybe hang things up. He is a pretty chill guy. I've actually met the guy, talked to him once. Seems like a real personable, real down to earth guy. But to me, seems like a person who would be perfectly fine with not coaching because he's got so many other things going on that he enjoys doing with his family and stuff. So
Okay, granted, I don't know his entire coaching career, but we're talking about a guy that's been playing a part of professional baseball since 1972. This is a
yeah,
guy that, as long as he keeps on producing for the Houston Astros are going to continue wanting him back. It's kind of like what Dusty Baker said. I will stay with the Astros as long as they want me. As long as Dusty Baker, I mean, sorry, Brent Strom does what he's been doing with the Astros pitching, not named Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, just with all the other guys in general too. You're
Keuchel.
gonna, yeah, Keuchel, you're gonna keep a job like that. That's why he's sustained manager change. Did he come in with AJ Hinch, or was he here before AJ Hinch? I don't remember.
He came he was brought over by Jeff Luno
Okay, so he was here
because
before AJ Hinch.
He was in St. Louis. Yeah, he was in St. Louis before he came to the Astros, and that's
Okay.
how. Yeah, and so he had an interesting thing. There is a podcast that I wish had more episodes. It's called 12-6 by Colin McHugh.
2015, no, 2014. So
Okay,
he's been here before AJ Hinch. So we're talking
yeah,
about somebody who survived 3 managers. So yeah,
yeah,
it's his ball game. It's his
yeah.
ballpark.
Yeah, I think he will be here as long as he feels like he's contributing, I think, to a winning team because he goes from the Cardinals to the Astros. The Cardinals were viable, were World Series champions. He comes to the Astros, they're viable World Series champions. And I just think, I don't know. I'm totally assuming here, but that's my guess.
Yeah, so as long as he wants to coach with the Astros and he's still producing, I don't think he's going anywhere. But we don't know. Like he could be wanting to hang up his cleats, so to speak, and he could be tired of everything that's going on with the cheating talk, and he maybe want to get rid of it. But guys, I would bet on that Brent Strom will be back next year at least, if not beyond. And you know what? Betting on the Astros doesn't have to be a guessing game. If you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast, hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling, get daily picks and quick hitting advice to make your smartest possible wagers. Subscribe to the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by betonline.ag, wherever you get your podcast. And we have one more podcast this year, and then we will see you in 2021, where the Astros are going to win a World Series.
That's right. And before we stop recording, and if y'all are watching on YouTube, look in the background. My dog is snoring. I don't think you can hear it on the audio, but I just want you to know this dog is out like a light. He has become podcast dog. So, anyways,
That
I just
was
want
what
to
my
say that.
dog was. You remember Gretel was always, you
Yes,
know,
I know. All right, man.
that
Well, hey, thank you, Eric. You did a great job. You're doing a great job. And again, check us out on our New Year's Eve episode, the last episode of 2020. We're looking forward
the
to it.
the 2021 Astros New Year's resolutions, and we will talk to you tomorrow.